workers. And personally, I'm pro workers. I feel like every worker around the world is exploited, you know, unless you're like a corporate CEO or something. All workers are exploited and completely underpaid. I don't care what industry you're in, you're underpaid. And I think that's the one thing that we need to connect on, because the people at the top, they want us to sit here spending time arguing about shit that don't matter and not focusing on the fact that people need to get paid a fair wage. The minimum wage hasn't gone up in what, like 10 years? But yet inflation has gone up almost, if I'm not mistaken, when I looked the other day, inflation has gone up like 33% in 10 years since the minimum wage was set at 725. So what does that mean? It means that the value of the dollar of our money has decreased by about 33% compared to what it was worth in 2013. So if the minimum wage hasn't changed, right? 725 in 2013 is not the same as 725 now. 725 then was worth more than it is now. So if inflation has caused the value of our money to go down, why have the wages in this country not gone up? You got people thinking $15 an hour is communist or progressive, or, oh, that's too much. Oh, a person working at McDonald's shouldn't get paid $15 an hour. Like, because people are just,
well, it's official.
Why is Dr. Berg on my screen? I did not click this. Anywho, the thing is, if the minimum wage goes up,
into work for Ford now.
Hold on, let's see. If the minimum wage goes up, everyone's wage is gonna go up. Because guess what? Like, people be looking at it in a crabs in a barrel mentality. They're like, oh, a service worker shouldn't get paid $15 an hour because it doesn't take skill. Well, how about you take your ass to McDonald's or take your ass to a restaurant and you go serve people and you tell me that's not a skill? To come in there when your life is falling apart, you can't pay your bills, you're stressed because you're poor, and you gotta go have a smile in somebody's face for 8+ hours a day and get paid off of tips and $2 something an hour for your wage. Tell me how easy it is to do that. And it's always the people who never have worked these jobs that have the most to say. I don't care if it takes a skill or no skill. I think whoever is working deserves to get paid. And whatever company you're working for is making so much more money that they could be paying you more. We're talking about jobs not wanting to pay people 50% more, 3% more, 5% more, 10%. Are you telling me that it's seriously gonna cut into that company's bottom line to pay you $1 more an hour, 2 more, 3, 4, $5 more an hour? But that would make a significant difference in most of our lives. But you can be working as hard as you want, and a company will be like, yeah, you're not worth like a $1 raise. I'm sorry, bro. You know, or they'll fire you for even asking for a raise. I've seen that happen. So like, I don't care what amount you make, whatever company you're working for could afford to pay you more, and they choose not to. And don't get me started on wage theft. I know a lot of people don't know what this is. Maybe I can find a video on it, but wage theft is actually a very common thing in this country, let alone around the world. So let's find an article on it. Look at this. Okay, this ain't no conspiracy, y'all. Economic Policy Institute. What does this title say? It says, employers steal billions from workers' paychecks each year. Survey data shows millions of workers are paid less than the minimum wage at significant cost to taxpayers and state economies. So need I say more? I'm just saying. So look at this. It says, we find that in states, 2.4 million workers lose $8 billion annually, which is an average of $3,300 per year for year-round workers, to minimum wage violations, nearly a quarter of their earned wages. Okay, so we see that this is like actually a thing, but they don't want us to unify over some shit that we should be unified over, like people deserving basic health care or people deserving basic livable wages to where they don't have to work 50 million hours of work and get 2, 3, 4 jobs just to pay their bills. There's no rent control. Housing is not affordable. Like, if I'm not mistaken, the average cost of a house has gone up, like, if I'm not mistaken, it's gone up a few 100% since the 1970s, the 1960s, 70s, 80s. It's gone up a few 100%. I know it's at least 300. I can't remember the exact number, but that is a lot, guys. That's obviously a lot of money. Like, so people can't even afford to take care of basic things. I think about half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Even people that are making 100K plus a year are living paycheck to paycheck. That's how expensive it is to live. But they want us to sit here and argue about, oh, what is a man or a woman bring to the table? Oh, women are so this, men are so that. Oh, Democrats, Republicans, like, but guess what? Them Democrat and Republican niggas, they gonna bond together and stick together when it's time to screw us over and vote against a minimum wage, or vote against rent control, or vote against affordable health care for everybody. And they'll sit here and tell you, oh my God, it's communist, it's socialist, people don't want to work hard anymore. Oh, back in my day, I had to do that. Nigga, we don't give a fuck. Back in your day, it was either black people and brown people being disenfranchised and gatekept from getting housing and building wealth, or it was people literally paying a fraction of what it costs now to get the same thing. So I'm really not trying to hear it. I digress. We're gonna watch the video. That should just be getting me mad, because people be like, oh, people don't want to work hard, everyone's so lazy. That it's way harder to live now than it was before, unless you were black and brown, of course. You know, they did the yellow people dirty too. They did our Asian brethren and sister in dirty too back in the day. They had concentration camps in the United States with like Chinese and Japanese people. So like, pretty much, and don't get me started on the poor white people. The poor white people, they get done dirty by the system too. So we got hella shit to be unified about, but it's really on us to lock in and focus on the shit that's important. But it's not as entertaining to talk about us getting fair wages, you know? People rather talk about some shit that don't matter for real. They rather talk about Trump getting indicted. Who gives a fuck?
Appearing middle class. We sat down with workers to get the real story of what they're fighting for and how far they're willing to go to get it.
I respect this shit, bro.
For a long time, a job in the largely union auto industry meant good wages and stability. But that's not really the case anymore.
You can't afford nothing, you're working nonstop and you still can't afford it, and you're at one of the jobs that was supposed to be the good job. You're supposed to be standard setting job, but you can barely make ends meet. A lot of people have had to secure second jobs or part-time work that they can go do.
Part of it is that wages haven't kept up with the cost of living. When adjusting for inflation, workers who are hired now make $10 an hour less than—
Oh, damn. That's that inflation I was telling y'all about. It's crazy, bro. It's crazy how that, like, they'll tell us $15 an hour is too much. But let me show you guys, because some people are visual learners. Let me pull up the inflation calculator for y'all. Let me pull this up for you guys so y'all can see. Let's just do a little experiment. Let's do a thought experiment, okay? Because it's hard to kind of grasp the concept of inflation sometimes. So let's just say, let's pick a random number. Let's pick $10. Okay, so let's go back to 2000. Let's go to 2003. Let's go back 20 years. So, okay, let's do the first one. Let's see what $10 in 2013, how much would that be like now? What would that be? How would that, what was the inflation rate? So it says the inflation rate from, this is crazy. The inflation rate from 2013 to 2023 is 31.8%. So that means that we've experienced inflation of basically 32% on our money in 10 years. So this is a little chart that can like visualize it, right? So this is the purchasing power of $10 over time. So this is basically like how much power is behind like what type of stuff, what can you get, how much does $10 mean, right? So guys, it would take $13.18 today to equal $10 10 years ago. Okay, let me say that again. It would take $13.18 today to equal $10 from 10 years ago. That's crazy. And if you think that's crazy, oh wait, there's more. Let's go back 10 years before that. Let's go back to 20 years ago from now. And it's going to be even crazier. So if we go to 2003 versus 2023, this is insane. The inflation rate from 2003 to 2023 is 66.8%. That is insane. So this says $16.69 in 2023 is equal to $10 in 2003. So if you had $10 in 2003, in order to equal the same amount of what that would get you in terms of what you can buy, that would be $16 today. Y'all, that's almost 100% inflation. Like that's almost 70% difference. Your money is worth almost 70% less now than it was in 2003, and almost 32% less now. Is worth 32% less now than 10 years ago. So think about it. When the wages that we earn do not change, this is basically part of this. To me, is wage theft. For the amount people get paid to not adjust with inflation every year, to me that is wage theft. Because if you're getting paid $7.25 now, it's worth 30% less than when the $7.25 minimum wage was put in 10 years ago. So you're actually getting paid less than $7.25. $7.25 in 2013 is not the same as $7.25 now. $7.25 in 2013 these days, if we made it equal to each other, that would actually be the equivalent of about $5 an hour. So when the minimum wage was set in 2013, it was $7.25. If the value of our dollar has gone down over 30%, or has been inflated over 30%, that means for the money that it was worth in 2013, if it were to actually stay at $7.25, the actual value of $7.25 at that time, the actual amount that we should have gotten paid, or everyone's wages should have gone up to account for inflation. So really, minimum wage should be at $10 to actually match the value of $7.25 when it was put into effect. I don't know if that makes sense to y'all, but that's basically like how it works. So it's crazy because the cost of goods and the cost of living has gone up, but the wages haven't gone up. And they say the cost of everything went up because of inflation, right? So if we're being logical, the amount we should get paid should have gone up with those things, but it hasn't. And that's why it's so hard for people to live these days. That's why this is part of the reason why people are living paycheck to paycheck, why they can't afford basic things, why the average American only has $400 in their savings account. Those are some of the reasons why. Like, we're literally getting scammed by these companies we work for, and they're just doing it in our face. And you know what's crazy? I even saw a video of this like really rich economist dude at like some rich people conference in like Australia, and he was saying we need to reach 40 to 50% inflation to show workers that they're not in control. I'm gonna find the video for you guys because that shit was kind of crazy. But like, dude he looked like a fucking evil villain, y'all, talking on that stage. He was like, no, we need the economy to feel pain. We have workers out here who are thinking that employers should be grateful for them instead of it being the other way around. And I was just like, as a person that kind of like studies and keeps up with this type of stuff, that's not surprising to me because you can tell by their actions that that's how they feel. But one of them being bold enough to like actually say it like in front of a camera, and then the shit go like trending on Twitter, like, I was like, wow, y'all are just really going mask off. Y'all aren't even pretending that it's about economic growth or none of that. You want workers to feel pain. Do you know how bad it would be if we have 40 to 50% unemployment? That means like the world is basically falling apart. But this guy who is in control of finances and has influence all across the world, and he was at a conference, mind you, with other CEOs, CFOs, people who own companies, people who run industries. That's who his audience is. And he's not influencing their mind. Trust me, they all agree with him. Like, so it's like, if niggas are sitting here saying this shit in our face, and we're having problems like just existing in society without struggling, at what point are we as people gonna be like, you know what? We're actually just not gonna go for this, and y'all need to pay us more. Y'all need to make sure everyone in this country can get health care. You need to make sure everyone in this country can afford food, can afford housing, like something. But like they're literally flexing on our ass. Like in CEO wages have gone up multiple hundreds, if not thousands of percent over the years, while the wages for workers has stayed the same. And we're all like cool with that shit. Like, I don't know, chat. So when I see these people going on strike across different industries, that tells me, okay, people are actually like kind of really getting tired of it. Not just saying they're tired, but they're putting their money where their mouth is. Because when these people go on strike, they're not getting paid from their job, and there's no end date on the strike. They're on strike for weeks, months at a time. And like these industries are trying to wait it out. They're trying to, like with the writers' strike in Hollywood, they're trying to wait it out. I remember it was like a quote that leaked from one of the executives for like one of the studios in Hollywood. He was like, oh, we're just gonna wait it out. We're gonna let them bleed all their money dry that they have like saved, and we're just gonna like try to just wait it out and get them to come back. Do y'all know that in the first day of the writer's strike, those companies lost over $1 billion from them not being there? That $1 billion that they lost from the workers going on strike is worth more than what they were asking for in a raise. I'm gonna say that again. In the first day of the writer's strike, the studios in Hollywood lost more than the workers were asking for a wage. So what does that mean? That means these people are so fucking evil and twisted in their mind and greedy that they rather lose money than just pay people a 3% raise that they're asking for. If that doesn't tell you the mentality of these companies, I don't know what does, bro. And it's like that across every industry. So, you know, there's been a lot of like unions being formed and people striking. So I would just say, like, at the end of the day, all of us need to be working under a fucking union. Fucking, I don't care if you do DoorDash and Uber or some Instacart, some other contract work, because that's another way these companies get around paying people. I don't care. All of them companies, those drivers need to form a union. Until they do that, they're going to keep getting screwed over. But we're going to see that happen soon because they're getting exploited and underpaid significantly. People who were teachers, like if you know teachers, they have unions. Those people negotiate contracts, benefits, all that. But the rest of us who aren't in a union, we got to deal with like our bosses and our employers on a one-to-one basis where they have so much more negotiating power because they have the job. So we kind of just got to accept what they give us unless we have like some outlier skill or ability that's like a little bit more rare. But for the average person, like you kind of just got to take what they give you or deal with potentially like getting fired or just not having a job. And sometimes that means people got to get underpaid or they end up doing like multiple jobs without getting paid for doing that shit. And to me, it's just like, that shit is just so ass. That shit is so ass that like these employers got so much power where they like make people stuck between not affording to live and having to work under horrible conditions. And I just think, you guys, like, we're gonna see more. I can tell you guys, Amazon workers have started to form a union, which is a really big deal because they're the second largest employer in the United States. Walmart is number one. Now, here's what I think shit is really gonna get shaken up. And we might start to see the police get involved with these unions and strikes and shit. Don't be surprised if y'all see that upcoming. Because at the end of the day, the police serves and protects property and people with money. That's what the existence of it is. It's not to protect people or any of that. It's to uphold the systems that run this country, which is everyone who runs a business or at the top of an industry. So you shouldn't be surprised when they decide to protect the companies over people, or you even start to see things get violent. Like, this has happened historically in this country where workers have gone on strike, police get involved, people get killed, all of that. I hope it doesn't get to that point, but I wouldn't be surprised because Walmart is like one of the biggest companies in the world, and those workers have not gotten a significant increase in wage. Like Amazon, their minimum is like 15 an hour, and their workers are trying to negotiate better conditions and stuff like that. But Walmart, those workers have not gone on strike yet or even hinted towards going on strike. So when we see the Walmart workers go on strike, I think that's when we're going to get a ripple effect across a bunch of other industries, because at the end of the day, like, they're the ones who got the most motion. They got the most impact on everybody. Because think about this. If a worker at Walmart ends up getting an average of $15 an hour or $25 an hour minimum, what is that going to do for the rest of the jobs around? Everybody else is going to have to increase their wage, since the most accessible jobs are paying at least 15 to 20 an hour. I'm gonna say that again. It's kind of like raising the bottom of a floor, right? So the floor of wages is $7.25 minimum wage. So if the floor goes up to 15, guess what? If you were already making more than that, your jobs are gonna all have to adjust and pay you more. Because if someone's getting paid $15 and doing harder work than someone at Amazon and Walmart, guess what they're gonna do? Leave their job and go to Amazon and Walmart, because they're like, why am I working twice as hard when I can just go work for one of them that have a minimum wage of like 15 or 20? So that's gonna cause everybody else in the country to have to compete to keep their workers and go up on the wages. And we've already seen that happen a little bit. So another company, Starbucks, it was like over 100 something Starbucks around the country last year that unionized. And I think even T-Mobile workers were unionizing. The airline workers, I told y'all, they've been unionized, but the companies weren't trying to pay them. And they had some big like things that they wanted in their next contract, and the airlines weren't going for it. And I'm telling y'all, they made it till the night before, right before they were about to officially go on strike and stop all the airplanes and all that. And guess what the companies had to do? They had to do what the workers wanted them to do. And that's the only thing keeping these companies in control and scamming us and stealing from us. It's the illusion that they're the ones in power. But at the end of the day, I don't care how many multi-billions or trillions your company or industry is worth. That is not worth shit unless you have workers there. So the sooner we realize the power that we have as workers, the better it's gonna be. But I get it, it's scary. I'm not gonna tell you to just go walk off on your job right now by yourself. There's a lot of organizing that goes behind it. But if there is a union in your industry, probably should go to that. You probably should find a union in your industry. And if it's not, if you're a revolutionary type, then you might be the one to create that shit. But everybody's not that type. Some people just need someone else to start it and then they'll join. So I know that's probably some of y'all. Y'all can't afford to just walk out on your job or not go. So I'm not saying that's the solution for everyone, but I am saying when you do start to see that happening at a company you work at or something, just think about the long-term effects. If enough of y'all decide that y'all aren't going to go for the way that they're treating y'all and what you're getting paid, they have no choice but to listen. But it takes, like I said, everyone getting on board, and it takes more unions existing, which I think we're getting there. So I'm gonna let them cook. I just need to say that because I've been meaning to get my thoughts out on the whole union and strikes and all that for a minute.
When adjusting for inflation, workers who are hired now make $10 an hour less than they did in 2007. This never used to be a problem because the UAW contract included COLA, or cost of living adjustments.
His grandfather and my father and the older members enjoyed a cost of living raise since the 1950s.
Thank you, Malaya.
So when we talk about rebuilding the middle class, COLA is an important step to do that.
COLA is essentially a raise that matches inflation. So if inflation is 4%,
Bro, that's what I was talking about. See, chat. Sometimes I know what I'm talking about. Every now and then.
your salary goes up 4%. GM workers won COLA all the way back in 1948, and in the 1970s, the UAW won it for all members. But when the auto industry collapsed in 2008, the UAW sacrificed these benefits so the car companies could recover.
They came to us for the bailout. We suspended our cost of living in 2007. We were promised that after we helped the companies achieve success, that cost of living would be reinstated.
Wow. See how trifling these niggas are? Their industry started to fail, and they went to their workers to ask them to take something out of their contract that made sure that they were going to get paid the right amount, adjusting for inflation. They said yes, and now these niggas don't want to put it back in their contract. That's so trifling. Like, these niggas are literally demons. They're literally demons, bro. They're like, yeah, we know, like, you know, inflation's gone up like 33% since you did this, but like, yeah, we just said that then, bro. Like, it's a new day. Like, we can't really go by that. Like, you know, we were just saying it just to say it. Like, these companies are so fucking sleazy, bro. I really hate these people.
Several
Like, I
contracts
actually hate these people.
after we're still at the situation after we helped the companies achieve.
So they helped the industry bounce back. Then when them niggas bounce back and make all this fucking money, they don't want to give that money back to the workers. And it's not even like the workers are asking for the money back. See, they could be real petty and be like, no, we want you guys to pay us for the amount we should have got paid when we suspended that shit in our contract. They could be asking for back pay, but they're not even asking for that. They're just saying, hey, put it back in our contract for going forward. And they don't even want to do that. They did that to help the industry from failing. And you can't even be a decent human and do what you said you were gonna do. Because you're like, well, you know, we're trying to make like a little more money and like pay our CEO and executive boards and like everybody before y'all. So like, can y'all like just like forget that we said we would reinstate it?
Success, that cost of living would be reinstated. Several contracts after, we're still at the situation where our cost of living was never brought back. So we all feel lied to in that regard.
The
Facts.
big three have more than recovered. Ford,
They're
Stellantis, and
booming.
GM made a combined $20 billion in profits in just the first 6 months of this year.
Chat. You guys, the contract where they decided to take their cost of living adjustments out to help these niggas, that was in like 2008. That was 15 years ago. So these niggas have been asking for them to put that shit back for at least 10 years now. 10 or maybe 5 years. So y'all have more than bounced back, but y'all can't give these people the money, or you're not giving them anything. They rightfully won that to be in their contract and temporarily took it out only because y'all said y'all would put it back. So now it's time to put it back. And all of a sudden y'all just acting brand new. Like, they're playing, like, I swear, chat, this is a slap in the face. Imagine working for a company for like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You help them out, and then them niggas go back on what they said. Like, I would just feel so disgusted.
Their wages have been returned. Their profits have been returned. When you see the bonuses,
Niggas made $21 billion in the first 6 months of this year. That's not even including all the other years they've been making money.
and you see the CEO pay, all those things were returned. So did I make the sacrifices so Ford could continue to hire people at $16 an hour and not return our COLA? I would have struck then.
COLA was not the only benefit lost during the Great Recession. Workers hired before 2009 had pensions, healthcare when they retired, and reached their top wage within 3 years. But workers like Chris who were hired after the economic crash.
Wow. So that's one of the things that make unions different than just being an employer type thing. So there's also like the really cool thing about unions, depending on which one it is, of course. But say, for example, that thing she just said about being able to reach your top wage within 3 years, that is huge, chat. Like, if you don't have a union where they put that in your contract and shit, you can literally be working for however many years and never get a raise. But unions make sure, like their union makes sure that they have a like, you can tell them before you work the job, okay, you're gonna get paid this amount your first year, and then it's gonna go up by 10,000 this year, and then it's gonna go by 10,000, it's gonna go up 10,000 the next year, and it's gonna go up 10,000 by your third year. And that's gonna be your top wage, and you'll get that for the rest of however long you work. I'm almost certain the majority of people that work would want something like that in their contract. And there's people out here who are like, unions are bad, unions are communist. Communist my fucking ass. I don't care. You can put all these labels on it you want to try to get people to be scared. If you sit here and ask any person that works, would they want something like that if they could have it? 90+% of them are gonna say yes. 90+% of people would love to know that their first 3 years of working at a company, their wages are gonna go up by a certain amount every year. That's all people want. And these companies are trying to like finesse us. Well, they're not trying to, like, they have finessed us.
Didn't get any of that. Workers
Let me go back.
healthcare when they retired and reached their top wage hired before 2009 was not the only benefit lost during the Great Recession. Workers hired before 2009 had pensions, healthcare when they retired, and reached their top wage within 3 years. But workers like Chris, who were hired after the economic crash, didn't get any of that.
So this is like the body shop right here. We stamp all the parts, the hoods, the fenders, all that. I'm a quality inspector, and that's where I park every single day. It took me 9.5 years to get to top pay.
Wow. 9.5 years. Like, listen to how big of a difference that is. The unions made sure that the workers got their top pay within the first 3 years. This guy, and some people don't ever get to that top amount you can get paid level. He's a quality inspector, so that's because he was able to elevate in terms of the ladder of like job positions, right? But everyone's not able to do that. But the union makes sure everyone is able to get that steady increase in pay by an earlier date than 9 years. That's ridiculous.
And not to mention going through 4 different plants in 2 different states. Even though I'm at parity in wages right now, I have no guarantee money coming in from a pension, and I have no health care when I retire. That's, guaranteed like everyone else.
Damn.
UAW is fighting to get rid of this tiered system, in which workers doing the same job sometimes have different pay and benefits.
It is hurtful to sit next to people and make less than they do and work just as hard as they do, no matter what industry and what you're doing.
It really puts a wedge between workers on the floor, and it hurts our
And
union.
they want that. They want that shit. They want the workers to like not be cool because they're like, oh, well, look at this person getting this. I'm not even getting that. Like, they just want us to be divided on this type of shit. It's real sick.
And it's hurt our union for the last, 15 years. Ending tiers brings us back to a fighting labor movement.
Right now, the majority of Big Three workers are considered lower tier workers like Chris.
If I'm gonna continue to be a part of this workforce that's making the companies record profits, I'd really like to be able to retire with some dignity, you know, pension and some health care, so I don't have to struggle when I'm, you know, 65, 70 years old.
There are still others who work full-time, but don't even get the benefits of lower-tier workers.
Oh, wow. What are they, contracted workers?
7 days because I have to, not because I want to, you know what I mean? And I don't think I should have to work 7 days to keep me and my family afloat.
Charles is what's known as a supplemental worker, which is supposed to be a temporary replacement for a full-time worker who's out on leave. But that's not what the companies are doing.
We have no full-timers. We are the
Oh, wow.
full-timers.
So they don't have any of them? I was thinking, okay, they're gonna have like certain people who are short-term workers, but they really keep them the whole time. But this is different. He's saying they ain't got no full-time workers, so all of them niggas are. Yeah, that's crazy, because with those contracted workers and stuff, they don't even get shit that a regular employee gets. They get like, oh, we cutting you a check, no insurance, no healthcare, no benefits, no overtime. Like, that's how strict it is.
They shouldn't be hiring supplementals to circumvent getting full-timers, but that's what it seems like is happening.
By abusing the temp worker category, the companies get
Oh, it's okay, Doc.
away with paying
It's all
lower
good.
hourly wages, offering less healthcare, and giving no retirement benefits, all while demanding the same amount of work from these employees.
We were
Right,
under the
right.
impression that it would only be for a short time, you know, because when they first started this facility, it was supposed to have been a 6-month trial, and if it was successful, we were supposed to become
Converted.
full-timers. Well, that didn't
Right.
happen. The only hope
course.
we have is within this new contract, if we can get it through this new contract.
Oh, you're good, Doc.
Other than that, I believe they're gonna keep
It's gonna be
trying to
another
keep
one.
us as supplemental.
My timing was a little off today.
The Big Three and the
Today
UAW
was very much an anomaly, so it's really my
have
fault.
until September 14th to come to an agreement on a new contract. If they can't, we might see the largest strike in the industry in 50 years.
We've got 25 days to the deadline. So I got a question for you. Are you ready to rumble?
Things are
We
going
love
to
to
be
see
given
it.
to us or bestowed upon
How's your
us
day
by
though, Doc? How was your day though, Doc?
a benevolent corporations or politicians, right? We are the ones who can affect change.
No one knows what's going to come out of this negotiation, but we know that these people are going to fight. They're trying it a different way. They're trying different methods that are really going to change the future of how a union fights and how this country lasts. If we win big on this contract, it's history setting.
The UAW has a new president who has taken a much more aggressive stance in bargaining. Sean Fain broke tradition when he started negotiations by shaking members' hands instead of company executives.
We'll shake hands
Interesting.
when they give our workers their fair share. When our workers
Ooh, I like this guy.
have economic justice, then
I
we'll
know
get
that's
more shake
right.
hands. But until then, there's no point in having some pomp and circumstance and some big ceremony acting like
Real.
we're working together when we're not.
And the tone
Facts.
of bargaining suggests the UAW is not willing to back down on the big issues.
I'm very, very encouraged, inspired that the UAW is getting back to its roots of a progressive fighting union, right? Because that's what I remember, a progressive fighting union.
You know, the UAW
Good
used to
shit.
set the
Good shit.
standard. Unions used to set the standard, not so much anymore. And we got to bring that back.
The question now is if this new momentum will deliver a record-setting contract for workers.
That was a great video. Man, I really know how to turn like a 8-minute video into like a 40-minute conversation. Am I right, chat? It's about damn time, bro. Much respect to the auto workers who were on strike. They just went on strike, I believe, Thursday night, basically Friday. So much respect to the auto workers. I'm really wishing those people the best of the luck. I know it's not gonna be easy, but you know, if they win their negotiations, it's gonna be definitely setting waves across the country for sure. Doc said I was good. It was good, just kind of busy. I was about to jump in the Discord, but I thought I'd check. Oh yeah, you can pull up to the Discord. I know it's pretty good. They did it, y'all. So that was 3 weeks ago. This video we just checked out. That was 3 weeks ago. So that was before they actually went on strike. I was just kind of like leading up to it type thing.